Hello! With Easter coming, I thought I would make my son, who really enjoys chess, a nice chessboard. And I think I'm going to make the contrasting pieces out of purple heart and birch. I think that'll make a nice contrast, and I really like the purple heart, and so does he. In between each square and around the borders, I'm going to use this darker gambia. And the first thing I'm going to do is take these boards, probably all three, and slice them right in half, which will give me six equal pieces. Next, I will take these, slice them down the middle, which will give me 4 pieces of purple heart, 4 pieces of birch, which gives me the 8 across I'm going to need for a chessboard. Then I'm going to slice these up into really thin pieces and use it in between. After that, we'll run them through the planer and go about our business. But I think this is what we're going to do to start. Each one of these little pieces is $25–$30, so let's hope I don't foul it up. Let's get to it. And we're back. I have sliced the major players into 4 equal sections. And now I've measured an inch, because these are 2-inch wide. I'm going to cut them in half. I'm going to run them right down the saw and slice these in half. So instead of 4, I'll have 8 sections. And then I'll take those 8 pieces and put them through the planer. So right now, let's saw these. Would you looky there? I've got 8 almost equal in size strips of birch and purple heart. I have 15 little strips of gambia. It's going to go in between. These I'm not going to plane because the planer will just chew them up. I'll run over them with a sander and then place them in between these when I'm ready. These I'm going to plane on all 4 sides. Top, bottom, and each side, obviously, so that they're the same. Then we'll start gluing up. Let's get at it. Welcome back. We are ready for our first glue up. I've got 4 pieces of birch and 4 pieces of purple heart. Just about the same size as I can make them with the planer and the saw. Once I finish the first glue up, I will run it through the planer again and sand it. Since my planer is only 13 inches, I don't glue the whole board together at once. I will glue half the board together. That way I can take these 4 pieces and these 4 pieces separately, run them through the planer before I attach them to one another. So in between these pieces, I've got the gambia. And once I start tightening the clamps, the board will begin to bow, which is why I'm going to place these boards thus with some clamps to prevent that. So let's get to gluing. Welcome. We have now reached the point of our first glue up. There will be several. 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4, maybe more. I've got the purple heart with the cambria, the birch, and so forth. Tomorrow, these 2 pieces are not glued together, so there'll be 2 separate pieces of 4, 2, 4, 2, 4. That way I can run them both through the planer, and then I will glue them together. Tomorrow we will plane this down to where it's all even. And I'm not sure if we'll cross-cut tomorrow or not, but we might. Let's see how tomorrow goes. Anyway, thanks so much for hanging in there. And I think that this is going to turn out mighty nice for my son. It's now time to take the clamps off and see where we are. It's kind of like unwrapping a Christmas present. You'll either find, that's exactly what I wanted, thank you so much, or you'll get that's not what I wanted at all. So let's get to taking these clamps off and see where we are. Alright, last clamp. Let us see where we are. Just right here is about $100 worth of wood. So let's hope I didn't foul this completely up. Alright, we've got one piece. However, these two aren't glued together real well, so I'll have no trouble breaking that. So let's, well, the first thing I'm going to do is scrape the glue off each side before I worry about taking these apart. Let's do that now. Alright, well, we've got the back end scraped free of most of the glue, and as you can see, the entire piece isn't glued together, and I did that, like I said, for a reason. My planer is only 13 inches wide, and if I had it completely glued, it wouldn't fit. And I need to have these things planed as much as possible so that they're all uniform in size. So now what I need to do is run them through the planer, and then we'll go through this whole procedure again. Thank you. I have broken these apart, run them through the planer, and that planer is a wonder. It was a gift from my wife, and I don't believe I've used a tool more. It doesn't make sanding unnecessary, but almost. This is so nice. And once I smooth this out, it's just going to be perfect. Now I need to glue this, and then tomorrow I will square it off, and then we'll make our cross cuts and glue up our chessboard itself. You might be wondering, yeah, I'm wearing the same shirt I wore yesterday, and the reason is I don't have a lot of shirts that I want to destroy in the shop with tears and glues and whatnot, and I already got this caught in a belt sander, so it's already wood shop proofed. So let's get to gluing, which isn't going to be a big deal at all, because like I said, I'm just gluing two pieces together. Now the glue that seeps out from this, I will wipe off, and then I will sand. I dislike sanding dried glue because it's a hassle, one, and two, it makes it so that there's craters in the wood. I much prefer to do it this way. And I realize I'm going to cross cut it, but I still want to get these as even as possible. And this time the board's going to want a bow. Let's just back this all the way out. I've got these tight, but not as tight as they're going to be. And the reason is I want to put some boards in here that will prevent it from bowing. The first ones will go here. And once I get these boards secure, then I'll tighten all the clamps. Alright, here's the last of the clamps to keep the wood from bowing. Now I can really go around and tighten these. And it's almost as if, we were where we were yesterday, when I glued this board together, but not really. I could have been there if I had a wider planer than 13 inches, but you get much past 13 inches and they become pretty pricey. Those planers. That one wasn't bad. It was on sale. My wife got it for me as a gift, and I think she paid $400 or $500 for it. So you can imagine what a 15-inch planer. Even a 15, I think they're $2,000. So, you know, I have to do it this way, and it is tedious. I'll give you that. But this isn't my first chessboard, and when wood costs what it does, like I said, each one of those 3 blocks I started with was $25 or $30, and I bought 3 of them. Purple Heart, Birch, and Cambria. I thought it was Gambria, but it's not. I think it's Cambria. Either way, I got $90 in wood right here. Just right here, 90 bucks in wood. And I'd rather not foul it up if I can help it. So it's just that simple. So that's why I do it this way. Maybe somebody else has a better idea. I don't. We're done with our second glue up, second day. And again, looks just like it did yesterday, but not really. These boards are uniform in size, and tomorrow I will square it off, and before I begin cutting I might start an initial sanding, because that's when I'm going to get all these lines out, and that's when the work really begins, because it gets a little more intricate from here. Tomorrow, when I get it sanded and I get it squared off, then we'll slice them, cross cut them, and you'll see, we'll turn each board and we'll have a checkerboard. So, I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for hanging in there. Welcome back. We are on our third day, 3, and I finally released the board from its clamps, and our second glue up has proven wildly successful thus far. The board has been run through the planer, the table saw, the miter saw, and is now proven squared on all sides. And now the intricate part starts. I've made a few chessboards, more than a few, and this is the part where you have to be real careful, because now I've got to measure and put through the table saw and start cross cutting. And once I have those pieces, every other strip I will turn. So we'll get a checkerboard and or a chessboard feel to it. So let's get to measuring, and then I'll run it through the table saw. And now we have our checkerboard. I had some mishaps while I was running these pieces through the table saw. A piece here broke off, and another one here. It can be repaired easily, but it makes it a little more complex. And I think what I'm going to do is, when I glue these together, I'm going to do again just half. I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. That will make it easier to glue these pieces back together both ways. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll just separate them like that. Yeah. So let's get to gluing. Thanks again. Well, we had a couple issues. When I ran through the table saw, it was my fault. I was cutting off these strips and I was trying to lift them from the back in order to pull away from the blade once it was cut so it didn't shoot across the room, and they snapped off. So I had to glue both horizontal and vertical a couple of these individual squares, but I think we're okay. We've come up with 2 sheets now, and I'm preparing to run them through the planer to make them all uniform, and then we will have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, our 4th glue up. And I can't forget to put my cambia in between. And once that's glued and uniformed and ready, we'll square it off again, and then we will begin sanding. So, off to the planer we go. Well, it's coming along. With each new issue that we solve, we've got a couple more to solve, but nothing that will destroy the board. Going through the planer, for whatever reason, a middle piece chipped off, and I'm going to have to use filler. And a little piece here tried to chip off. I'll use some wood glue on that. And I'm going to have to sand this a little better. So, take about 15 minutes, and then we're ready for our 3rd or 4th glue up. I don't remember which. And tomorrow, we'll square all this off and begin sanding, and then we'll move right along. But it's coming. I'm pretty pleased with it. Thanks so much for hanging in there. This Purple Heart, this was a good choice. This is going to look nice when we put some oil on it. Thanks again. We have begun our 4th glue up. Now, again, the board itself is fine, but when you glue it together and you put pressure on it, it wants to bow. So I put these 3 boards in there to keep it from bowing, and I also put an additional board across to help that. The thing is, you don't want to crank too hard on these ends on this top board, otherwise you could end up snapping off the last square. I've done that. And you can fix it, you just got to glue it back. It's just one more problem you don't need. So, until tomorrow, there's just not much we can do. And tomorrow we'll take these clamps off, we'll sand it, square it off, and begin putting our border on. I haven't yet decided what I'm going to do about that. As always, thank you so much for hanging in there. We finally pulled it out of the clamps, and it's finally starting to look like a chessboard. After pulling it out of the clamps, I used 60 grit sandpaper and sanded down these Cambria edges, because some of them weren't exactly flush. Then I used 120 grade sandpaper and went across the whole board. Then I went down to 220. It's nowhere near being sanded the way I want it, but it's okay for now. As you can see, it's coming out pretty well. Now, because I put them through the planer in separate pieces, I had some chip out right here, and I had to use filler. And the filler wasn't quite the exact same color as birch, but it's the best I could do. It's for it's an Easter present for my son, and he really likes chess. So let's hope this comes out. I'm debating whether or not to put a bottom on this. Here's what I started out with. Isn't that lovely? I will be putting a border. I've got to work that out. But at least now you can look at it and you know what it is. instead of just these strips of wood and a clamp. So maybe you're tired of hearing it, but I'm not tired of telling you. Thank you for hanging in here. It's what is this, 12, 15 minutes? You don't have to watch this far. A lot of these videos, these guys, they know exactly what they're doing, and they're as good at videography as they are at woodworking. I'm an average woodworker, and I'm a below average videographer. I apologize for the lighting. I apologize that the last few segments you could barely see my face. I'm doing the best I can. I'm learning. But I'm proud of this board. Now this is expensive because I chose to use this. You don't have to use really expensive wood to do this, and it's a simple procedure. I used expensive wood because this is an Easter gift for my son. I used birch, Purple Heart, and Cambria. And it came out of 3 2x2-inch blocks, 36 inches long, and each one of them was $25 or $30. So there's $100 worth of wood here, or thereabouts. And I'm not even finished. When I'm done, I haven't decided yet whether I will put oil, beeswax, or polyurethane. I haven't yet figured that out. So that's my problem, not yours. Thanks again for hanging in there. I've got to make a 5th glue up to try and put on this initial border. Again, this is the Cambria. As soon as this is glued and set tomorrow, I will sand it all even, and then I will decide whether or not to proceed further with some other ideas I have. But this is how it looks thus far, and I gotta tell you, I'm okay with it. Thanks. I believe this is our 5th glue up, maybe our 4th. I don't know. I put the initial border on here, and it's coming out pretty well. Tomorrow I'll take the clamps off, sand this all level, and we'll go from there. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to add some things or not. I'm thinking I may go back to the wood store, get some more 2x2 blocks of Cambria, put them on the bottom, go all the way around, and then make a drawer underneath where he can keep his chess pieces. I'm just not sure if I'm going to do that or not. But whether I do or whether I don't, this is coming out really well. Thank you. I believe that I still haven't decided whether or not I'm going to try and build a stand and a drawer for this. I haven't. I thought about just putting some feet on it and leaving this board the way it is, because it's come out rather nice. Now, this is nowhere near being finished. I just put some water on it to open up the grain and show what it's going to look like once I put some oil down, some polyurethane. And I'm still thinking I'm going to get some 2x2 blocks that I started with, run it all the way around, put a floor on it and a door so that my boy can open it up and put his chess pieces in. Haven't decided if I'm going to do that yet or not. I'm going to go to the wood store. We have a wood store here where you can buy this kind of wood and get some advice. About the only thing that I think I can say that I made a mistake on is when I set these individual pieces through the planer, this one chipped out and I used filler and I couldn't match the birch. I did the best I could, but I couldn't match the birch. That and this separator of Cambria, the very thin piece of wood itself wasn't level, and I wasn't paying as good attention as I thought. I had it up on the ends but the middle dipped down, and I tried to fill it in, and I filled it in with the wrong color of filler, and I tried to scrape it out. But those are the only two mistakes I think I made. And it doesn't, you know, those are the kinds of things that make this homemade. You know, this is the very best I'm capable of doing. You can see it's drying off already. This is the very best that I'm capable of doing. Maybe maybe you can do better. I hope you can. This is about, I don't know, the 6th or 7th board I've made. I'm fairly proud of this one. Well, this is something my son can have for the rest of his life. So, as always, thank you so much. I apologize for the length of this video. I had no idea it was going to end up being half an hour. But plans kept changing on this board. Last we met, I had the chessboard itself. And since then, I decided to add a border to the board. This was the previous border. And I went and got some more. I retrieved a few more 2x2x2 inch blocks of Cambria. They're 2-inch square by 36 inches long. And this, believe it or not, is planned out. It's just pine. It's the only cheap wood in this entire board. I just thought I liked the contrast rather than just add more Cambria to this. And because I have wonderful tools, but I'm not very good at 45-degree angles, I had to bring the pinstripes out to the corners. But all in all, I think it's a fine board for my son. I was a little disappointed that the purple heart faded into what is, I don't know, a dark red. Doesn't look much purple to me, but it worked out because the polyurethane, there's 7 coats of polyurethane on this, and that turned the pine yellow, which kind of complemented the birch, which also turned a bit yellow with the polyurethane. So it turned out really well, I think. But because I have trouble with 45-degree angles, I have to bring the pinstripes out here. They don't ever seem to match, and I have to cut a notch and then put it in there. And then I had to bring it clear down. So I think it turned out all right. This isn't a surprise for my son, and he didn't want me, for whatever reason, to sand off the polyurethane on the backside. I don't know why. But he said, "No, Dad, I don't want you to do that." Once I got the board, I didn't have any money for any high-dollar wood. But you know what I did have? Along with the chessboard itself, I decided I had some 2x4s, and I made a table for him. We've got an area down below where he can keep chess pieces if he chooses. I believe, excuse me, this isn't the first chessboard I've made, and I made this to hold chess pieces once upon a time. Sorry about walking in frame. Closed. There. There's that. There's a primary drawer. And so now he's got a table and a board. And the lid closes a second time. There is 7 coats of polyurethane on this. My son, I asked, and my son said he didn't want any. So basically these are 2x4s that I stripped and stained with dark walnut and put together. Just 2x4s. I believe this is a 2x4.5, so this whole table cost me about $6. And I wanted to use Cambria, but Cambria is $10 a foot, and I just didn't have the money. So I'm pretty happy with this. So thank you so much for hanging in there. I appreciate it.